Hey, student, how are you? You ready to practice? We're going to do 8 problems. Number 1, A is 1, B is -1, and C is -30. Since A is equal to 1, we can just ask ourselves what two numbers multiply to -30 and also add to -1. Multiply to -30, add to -1. We could do +5 and -6. +5 and -6 multiply to -30, and -6 plus 5 adds to -1. Number 2, A is 1, B is -7, and C is +12. Since A is 1, we can just ask ourselves, what two numbers multiply to +12 that also add to -7? Multiply to +12. Okay, needs to add to -7, so both numbers will be negative. Two negatives multiply to a positive, and two negatives added equal a negative. Yeah, -3 and -4. Multiplies to a +12, adds to -7. Number 3, factoring out the greatest common factor. I see that number 3, all 3 terms have a greatest common factor of 5. So we can divide out 5. We're left with x squared plus 4x minus 2. And then let's see, can we factor any more? Does anything multiply to -2 also adds to +4? No. So that's it. Factored. Number 4. When you see a negative in front of x squared, good idea to factor out a -1 from all 3 terms. So we'll factor out a -1. We're left with +x squared minus 12x plus 27. Now we have a +1 for A, B is -12, and C is 27. What two numbers multiply to +27 that also add to -12? Both numbers will be negative, adds to a negative, and both numbers will be negative. Two negatives multiply to a positive. Multiplies to +27. Yes, -3 and -9. And -3 plus 9 adds to -12. And don't forget the -1 that you factored out earlier. Number 5. Factoring trinomials when A is not 1. So we see here that A is 6, not 1, and there is no greatest common factor. B is equal to -5, and C is equal to -4. Let's rewrite -5. We'll rewrite -5 as two numbers that multiply to -24. A times C multiplies to -24 and adds to equal -5. Let's see, what two numbers multiply to -24, add to -5? Yeah, we could do -8 plus 3. So let's rewrite -5. We'll rewrite our quadratic trinomial. We'll do minus plus 3x minus 8x minus 4. So -5x we still have in the middle when we add 3x minus 8x. And now we can use our factor by grouping. I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor of the first two terms, 3x, and we're left with 2x plus 1. And then the greatest common factor of the second two terms, I'm going to factor out a negative 4. We're left with 2x plus 1. And now we can factor out 2x plus 1, and we're left with 3x and minus 4. And let's take a look, number 6. We'll use the x method. We'll set that up. Can you tell by my factor by grouping that I prefer the x method? Yeah, I stumbled over factor by grouping. The x method. A is equal to 2, B is equal to negative 13, and C is equal to 20. I think I prefer the x method because I actually had one of my students teach this to me when I was teaching in person. And we'll set up the x method. At the top here, we need A times C. 2 times 20 is 40. B goes on the bottom, negative 13. And then A goes in the denominator of your fraction, 2 and 2. And then we ask ourselves, what two numbers multiply to positive 40 that also add to negative 13? Negative 8 and negative 5. Multiply to positive 40, add to negative 13. And then very important using the x method that we reduce. And we get negative 4 over 1. And then bottoms up. Bottom number comes first, 1x minus 4. And then bottom number comes first, 2x minus 5. And there's our factored form. And the last two, we'll take a look at factoring perfect square trinomials. And here we have our patterns at the top. And to factor, we'll take the square root of the first term, a squared, and the square root of the last term, b squared. Square root of 36 is 6. Square root of x squared is x. And then plus in the middle, since we have a squared plus 2ab, square root of 49. Square root of 49 is 7. And all squared, squared. And the last one, we'll take the square root of the first term and the square root of the last term. And square root of 81 is 9. Square root of x squared is x. And then we need a minus sign in the middle. And then the square root of 25 is 5, all squared. Thanks so much for practicing with me, and I'll see you next time.